Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's album review. As nobody has left a request, I will go ahead and choose an album randomly using a random album generator. So let me just share the screen. Right, can you see that?
Yes, can.
So I've chosen three. There'll be three options. I'm going to press generate music albums. We'll see what the three options are. Okay, so we've got Are You Experienced album cut? Are You Experienced by the Jimi Hendrix Experience? Thirstin' by Jack J, or The Piper at the Gates of Dawn by Pink Floyd. Okay, so let's go through these then in order. So we have already done a Jimi Hendrix before, and remember, I didn't like it. Didn't like that type of music. Why is it called the Jimi Hendrix Experience? Is that actually him? The next one is Thirstin' by Jack J. I don't know what that is. And the third one is Pink Floyd. We've already very recently done a Pink Floyd album, but it wasn't this one. We've also done another Pink Floyd album that we did before we started our YouTube channel, just between ourselves. But I guess Brett's not allowed to help me here with any. He can't help me with anything. So I'm going to go and choose The Piper at the Gates of Dawn by Pink Floyd. I was quite surprised by the last Pink Floyd album we listened to, which I think was was it called Another Brick in the Wall? Is that the one it was? Yeah, just a famous one. And actually quite enjoyed it. I remember saying it in the album review. It was a good album to review, even though I wasn't so keen on the other one, the other famous one that we did before we started the YouTube channel. What's it called? Back to the Moon?
Dark Side of the Moon.
Dark Side of the Moon, yeah. So this one, I don't know what it is, but we're willing to give it a go. Brett, what is the Jimi Hendrix Experience? Is that Jimi Hendrix himself?
Yeah, so again, I'm careful just because I do get it wrong, but I believe that's Jimi Hendrix as his band was known as the Jimi Hendrix Experience there. Yeah, I don't know the album, the Jimi Hendrix one of that one there. I don't know if it's a plan was because obviously the Are You Experience or whether it's something a bit different, a bit special. We haven't got an image. I don't know if you can see an image, but we can't see. Well, I can't see an image on my one there. And Jack J, yeah, I'm not sure on that one. It looks like it's meant to look like a very old-fashioned kind of album kind of thing, but it makes me think it's probably really modern, but just made to look like that. So I thought because we've done recently Pink Floyd, and as you said, done them previously, even before the channel. And I know how much you enjoyed Jimi Hendrix. I generally thought it was going to be Jack J straight away. So yeah, intrigued choice. I probably would have gone Jack J. Just because I'm intrigued by him, just because we've done the others already. But yeah, it would be interesting to see. And it looks like that's probably quite an early Pink Floyd's type album there. So I don't recognise the album.
Well, look, what we'll do is now we'll pause this. We're going to find out exactly what it is, and we'll be back with you guys in a second. Okay, so I found the album, and interestingly, it is their debut album. So interesting to check that out. So yeah, Brett, you were right. It's definitely one of their earlier albums, their earliest album. So it was recorded in 1960. Well, recorded and released in 1967. It was placed at number 347 on Rolling Stones magazine's list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. So there are different versions of it. I guess we'll probably just listen to maybe the UK release, which contains 11 songs. So it's about 43 minutes roughly, if we listen to that one. And then you've got an 8-track release and all sorts. So we'll have to agree on that, Brett, before we listen, because there's a US release as well. So quite a few different releases. 40th anniversary edition as well. So yeah, in terms of the genre, we've got psychedelic rock, which I'm not a huge fan of, I'll be honest. Acid pop, space rock, experimental rock, psychedelic pop. Oh, the length, 41 minutes, 54 seconds. So we'll listen to that one, whatever that is. So yeah, but I'm still quite intrigued by it. I'm hoping that it's going to offer quite a bit of variety for each song. What about you, Brett?
Yeah, very intrigued. I'd say because I think for people who know Pink Floyd probably know them. The people who don't who know as well as probably we do, you know, in terms of No Brick in the Wall, Dark Side of the Wall. That's the ones that people generally know, and the songs that I would know generally. I think a lot of their earlier stuff I probably haven't heard of before, so it'd be interesting to see, yeah, you know, them at their start and what their stuff was really like. So the fact that it still shows it is, you know, it's acid rock, psychedelic kind of thing. So I wonder if it'd be really extreme or maybe not as much. So it'd be interesting to see how the take was on the early days.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead now and listen to the album. We'll be back with you guys in a few seconds. Hello, everybody, and it's a continuation of where we just were. So, yeah, we've now listened to the album. So let's go through. Well, before we go through each song, let's get Brett's opinion on it first. How did it go down for you?
Yeah, it's another interesting album. So obviously we've done Pink Floyd already. So something that was a bit more well known of it. So as we said just before, this is obviously their first album. What I quite liked about it, you could hear some of, you know, the sort of Pink Floyd classic, which made them more sort of well known from this and sort of developed from that, which was, I think, quite interesting because I only knew sort of mainly their main commercial stuff from later on in the years, not so much their real early stuff. So it was a real nice sort of insight. Like we've also said with Pink Floyd, I think it's one of those, you have to be there part of the time. I think it's one of those, if you were there of that era, and I was trying to think of a comparison that we may have had in our day, or that's kind of now that is, you know, we get it and we enjoy because of when we were there listening to it. When people down the line might think, oh, it's a bit too different or a bit sort of something that's sort of new, like this is sort of new stuff. I say that, but I think there's also a lot of stuff that I think the Beatles probably had done beforehand as well. I think the point I'm making is it was more of a history lesson listening to the album, so to speak. It was an album I would go away and listen to again. I didn't hate it, didn't overly enjoy it either. But it was I think like just a really good insight, you know, to see something that was really sort of new and a band that's really going to take off at their early stages. If that kind of makes sense. So, like I said, as an album, take it or leave it. But I think it was just a good eye opener for in terms of appreciating music. Hopefully that kind of makes sense, my sort of analysis of it as such.
Okay, so for me, I would say probably the analogy I would use is a bit like with modern art. You know how like you can have this painting where, or some drawing, some circle with a dot in the middle, and apparently it's amazing. I kind of feel that's the analogy I'm using. I kind of feel that's what I feel like with this. Like I don't get it. It's like so many people love Pink Floyd, and I know this isn't one of their like real popular albums, or they've had more famous ones, but with this album and just in general, maybe the last album not so much. I enjoyed that one more, but like, you know, this album, I just don't really get it, if that makes sense. It's like maybe because like what you're saying, you had to be there at the time. Maybe that's an issue, but it's weird. Like the whole album is just weird, odd. But I was expecting that because, you know, we know what Pink Floyd is about. This is our third album, second on YouTube. We did a previous one before YouTube as well. So, I mean, I'd say there was some variety there to some degree. There was some songs that didn't really have any singing. There were some that did. There were some that were kind of more like storytelling. So I'll give it that. But yeah, it was interesting, especially as it was their first album. But I just didn't really get it. It's just a bit too unusual for me, I'd say. So if we go through the songs, the first one was Astronomy Dominea. So a bit of a mishmash of stuff going on, lots of guitar play, not much singing, and I was kind of a bit confused by it, like not really sure what to make of it. Just a bit weird. I think it's kind of a common theme throughout the album.
Yeah, very much so. I think this song probably sums up my sort of review of the album and sort of maybe what I was trying to say. So like with this one, it felt like it was this very sort of a classic sort of like rock and roll style of like it could have been like the Beatles, any sort of band like that, or Buddy Holly, anything like sort of rock and roll kind of thing. But then sort of experimenting with these sort of psychedelic kind of sounds kind of thing as they're trying to identify themselves there. As we know, I think we'll feel the later stuff on, even though I feel the later stuff is a bit more psychedelic, but all has a bit more purpose. This one it's almost like they're not sure themselves. I'm sure they probably are very sure of themselves, but what it looks to me is like they're not sure, like, are they more going to be like a classic sort of rock and roll kind of band or this sort of psychedelic thing? So you get this sort of merge of the two, which I mean, it didn't kind of work for me, but that's why I found the album interesting, because it feels like you could see elements of what they were like and what made them stood out, be more popular, and then evolve into the Pink Floyd that most people know. So that's why I think I like the sort of first one in terms of like that history kind of, you really see it from there. But otherwise, yeah, it was just a bit of a mismatch that didn't quite work quite right.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one was Lucifer Sam. I put here, it sounds like kind of like a theme tune or music from an escape film. You know, like when you watch a film, some old film, and there's someone's on the run from someone, or they've, I don't know, robbed a bank and they're running away or something, or the police are chasing them. It had that kind of sound to it, but without the singing part. I'm just talking about the actual, the instrumentals itself. The singing, when the singing did kind of begin, there wasn't too much singing in this song, but there were a few parts to it, and it was kind of sounded quite laddish, very sort of laddish British style, which I kind of liked, and definitely better than the first song. I mean, probably, actually thinking about it, it's probably one of the definitely the better songs on the album for me. Possibly even the best. I haven't really chosen what the best one was, but this was all right, this one.
Yeah, so I totally get you. I totally get what you were saying with that one there. So I put here, like, it's a real sort of, you felt like my head was bopping and toe tapping. It had a really good sort of tune to it. I couldn't pick up on the lyrics, but it felt like, and I'm probably imagine with most of them, we do hear some more of the story ones, the lyrics were sort of a little bit weird, but I think with a lot of these bands, it's not about so much the lyrics, it's just about the artistic music sides of things. I put here, it sounded very much like The Doors, and I think that kind of alluded to what you were saying, that sort of British kind of rock, punk, psychedelic kind of feel to it there. But yeah, this was definitely sort of a good sort of toe tapping kind of song. Quite liked it.
Yeah, so the third song was Matilda Mother. The voice was very clear, very audible. You hear exactly what was being sung. Some interesting noises going on, kind of weird. And again, like the first song, also don't really know what to make of it. Just a bit peculiar.
Yes, this one was one of those sort of storytelling type of ones. And I put here, so like the lyrics were the more prominent parts, it felt, of this, apart from then when it goes into the Pink Floyd psychedelic experimental side of things. this one just felt really, to me, really 60s/70s feel to it. Strange lyrics, but like I said, they were the predominant part of it there. And what I've put here as well, it kind of sort of closure. You can imagine if you were dreaming, it's just sort of, when people have these really weird, strange dreams sometimes. I feel like this song could be what sort of the theme to that. Just sort of not really sure what's going on, but it doesn't make you feel. It's just, again, as I used to like, sort of like that artistic kind of feel to it there. So yeah, just that, and I said it's that start of the Pink Floyd elements of what they then sort of became more famous for later down the line.
So the next one was Flaming. Clear voice again with some strange sounds. I put probably the second best out of the 4 so far. Weird, as most of these are, but don't mind it. You know, this was actually, yeah, not bad, this one.
Yes, this feels like still staying down that sort of artistic route. And again, I put here like this is sounding like this Pink Floyd that we get to know later down the line. Just feels weird, but not in a annoyed way or hated way, just artistic, makes you think kind of what's sort of going on. I've also put here in brackets, again, for the time, probably associated by having a few beer drugs and enjoying this type of music. And I think that's sort of what, like I said, it makes them what made them stand out and then become such a popular, well-known band for years to come.
So the next one was a strange name, How Are Tok H. So I kind of described it as animal sounds. Then it was like not much happening. It's just like some instrumentals being played repetitively. And then eventually some more animal sounds. Then again, not much happening again. And then some kind of intense sounds to finish off. I just put odd. So like I was explaining earlier, this whole kind of modern art analogy, how someone can appreciate some weird looking, I don't know, line, a few lines or something, say, wow, it's amazing. That's kind of how I felt here, but except I just didn't. Like, what the hell is this? Like, I just don't get it, basically.
Yeah, it's weird. This is kind of like we've talked about like interlude songs. It's a bit like an interlude song, but also as we normally talk in other albums, the experimental song as well. So we haven't really had an interlude song, which is also felt like the experimental song as well. But that's kind of how I best explain that. I really want to try and look more into the title, what the title was about, if that could give any sort of insight with it. But otherwise, yeah, as you pretty much summed up there, I said it's just very, very experimental. And as I said, you can see this is what makes people always stood out more. Like I said, people like the Beatles were doing, you know, experimental sound and trying different things. But I think Pink Floyd almost them took it as their main thing, sort of going forward. So yeah, just an unusual song for the album, but not really surprising either.
Yeah, the next one was Take Up Thy Stethoscope and Walk. So after the previous song, this one sort of started off slightly more of a normal song. There was, you know, some proper lyrics there. But then it kind of went weird. It felt like it was on fast forward. It was like really fast. Yeah, it just went really, really weird. It sounded like quite promising at the beginning. But yeah, it's kind of a bit too unusual for me.
Yeah, just weird stuff with, keeps getting weirder. Feels like I didn't really pick up much on the lyrics, but it felt like weird lyrics as well. The difference with this one, I think we had the sort of synthesizing sound, so like a synthesizing guitar and keyboard, which doesn't really appear that much in any other sort of songs there. So again, it feels like it's going quite experimental from there. I've also put in brackets, kind of feels again a little bit like the Doors again. But otherwise, yeah, it's just a weirder version of some of the earlier songs we've had already, really, but with all this synthesizing elements to it.
So the next one was Intercellar Overdrive. So I think this is the one that was over 9 minutes long. So we had two different kinds of sounds going on in each of my ears. Again, it was a real mishmash of sounds. I knew this was coming because I'd seen I had the Wikipedia album page open, and when it said lyrics, it just said instrumental. So I knew it was just going to be an instrumental. So I wasn't surprised by that. There was no lyrics to it. But just so peculiar, just not for me. Just don't get it. So it went on for a long time. Just all these different sounds and stuff, and just, I don't know, just peculiar, really.
Yeah, you're smart to at least have the Wikipedia page, because I didn't have those there. So I was waiting if there were going to be lyrics coming up on this one. It's such a long song as well. But obviously they never came up. And it goes back to what we were just saying, you know, this sort of artistic feel to it. Like, it's not bad, it's just them trying to express themselves. Someone can take something else from it. And like I said, it does make them sort of stand out from there. And that's what I was saying, as I said before, and I keep repeating myself, it's, you know, with stuff that they took on to them for their later sort of albums that they did there. I just found it was a little bit too long in those regards. But I did also get sort of a real sort of space feel to it, had that sort of space kind of sound, and it's obviously the same sort of time as when the moon landing was happening as well. And then a really sort of dramatic ending as well. So it's almost like, the best way to say it, it's almost like watching a movie but that hasn't got any words or stuff, like an old-fashioned movie. And it's all about the sort of the sounds and stuff and what you can get from it there. But like I said, when you listen to it and try and review it and just in there, it was just a little bit too long. But again, like I said, a good insight to see, you know, how Pink Floyd, as I said, we have had a bit of variation in this album, seeing this stuff, as I keep saying, going on to the latest stuff as well.
So the next one was, I think we have 4 songs left, and I have a kind of similar theme to them. They have the same singer, vocals. So the next one is the Gnome. Gnome, it's a gnome, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a silent G, it's Gnome, but I always say Gnome just to make a emphasis of it.
So this was just basically a story, and I was like, this is more like it, at least compared to the previous. So at least this, I don't know, felt a little bit more normal, but it was just a story, but still a bit weird. I don't know, maybe I wasn't really paying attention to the lyrics, because I don't really know what it was about, but but yeah, it's like just a story, basically. Yeah.
So like I said, this is where we have this sort of variation in the games. It's really interesting to see this side, which again, I know I keep referring to all the psychedelic and all the instrumental sound things people, but they do this sort of stuff as well later on, but like I said, it's more prominent than other stuff. I actually quite like this one. Maybe it's because after having that 10-minute space thing, suddenly this felt a bit of fun, and actually kind of, again, I couldn't pick up the lyrics massively, but from what I got from it, it was literally talking about this imaginary gnome living a life, having his tea, going out, just being a gnome, really. And it made me smile. And I say I had a nice little tune to it, but it's literally focusing on the lyrics and stuff. I've also put in brackets, it does sound a bit like the Kinks as well, which is another band from the 60s. They're all obviously influenced from another. And I think it felt like a parody song. I think it probably, well, loosely a parody song in some regards, but it made me smile. I quite liked it in a way.
Yeah. I kind of quite liked it, but I think, as you said, mainly because it just came after that long instrumental track. So next one was chapter 24. Lots of singing, but doesn't really feel like a real song. Just not much music to it. It's like, it's not speaking. It's like, it's just, I don't know. How can I explain it? Maybe you can help me out with this one. It's like, yeah, the voice was there, the lyrics were there, but it just wasn't much wasn't much music to it.
Yeah, it almost was trying to be like the storytelling of like the Gnome we just had, and then also elements of a song. it kind of reminds me of the third song on the album, the Matilda Mother one, where it's the storytelling, but also had this sort of experimental elements to it there, really. So I said it's almost like a mix of both sides of Pink Floyd, the sort of lyrical storytelling and the sort of experimental sign kind of things. Didn't mind it, but also did enjoy as well. And I said it again, just reminded me just when we did my conclusion, where I was saying about how it's starting to see both sides of Pink Floyd and see what they work, what they like, and what they went going forward, really. Yeah, just another strange little song on a strange album.
So the penultimate track was the Scarecrow. Yet again, it was another kind of short story about a scarecrow. Not really a song, just a storytelling kind of track.
Yeah, it's just kind of, it reminds me of Gnome. Again, I actually quite liked it. And again, I didn't pick up massively on the lyrics, like we know, but again, it did sound just like a story about Scarecrow living his life, being a scarecrow in a field. Nothing, it is what it can't read too much into it. But it'd be interesting if anyone does know if there's any real conclusive backstory about what the Scarecrow is meant to represent or anything like that. But again, just a nice parody song. I couldn't help but smile and quite liked it.
The last song then was Bike, very British sounding. At least it's a bit more of a song with lots of weirdness, of course. And then we had some bells and some kind of same strange sounds to finish off this peculiar album.
Yeah, so a bit like the start of it, this sort of ended how, you know, it sums up sort of the album, this sort of, again, what class like sort of experimental stuff. To me, it sounded a little bit like a circus. We had like lots of different sort of sounds, lots of sort of stuff going on. And because I was listening to the headphones as well, it was weird. So I know a lot of albums or a lot of songs do this where certain things will come from one side of the headphones and to the other. And I don't know if the others had been like that, but this one, it really stood out quite a lot. And again, gave me this sort of really trippy, psychedelic, sort of what's kind of going on, and made it quite factual in that regards. So again, I actually quite like this, and I said this really shows what, and I think why Pink Floyd became popular. Because again, imagine at the time, even though the Beatles were also doing experimental kind of psychedelic stuff a little bit, but not, I think, as prominent as what Pink Floyd looked like they were eventually going to do. Also finished saying it almost felt like being quite, you know, what might feel like to be drunk kind of thing. Just said very strange sensations going on, all like being on drugs from there. So again, didn't hate it, and like I said, really appreciate it from a historical, artistic kind of view.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wish I could appreciate it more. It's a shame that I can't. Again, like you said, maybe because you had to kind of be there at the time to really appreciate it. I don't know. There's still probably, you know, people from a younger generation, like our generation, that probably, you know, are big Pink Floyd fans. But I don't know. It's just too kind of peculiar. I just prefer normal, you know, music. Like I don't know much about the Beatles, to be honest. You know, I know you like them a lot, but I'm sure I would much more enjoy, you know, just a kind of a standard Beatles album, not some of their more kind of what do you call it, stuff that they try to do different stuff with,
like sort of experimental
stuff, which we have listened to an experimental one of theirs. But you know, just normal kind of music with a proper singing, and I don't know, just, you know what I mean? That's just kind of just what my own preferences. For me, this is just peculiar. But yeah, maybe if you're on drugs or something, and yeah, maybe there's a time and a place for this, maybe. But as you say, it's the first album of theirs, so it's kind of good to kind of see how it all started for them. But for me, there were no real surprises with this album, because we've already listened to a couple of their albums. I was kind of expecting it to pretty much be like this, kind of peculiar, lots of odd sounds going on, some strange kind of singing. So yeah, nothing too surprising for me. But yeah, that's my take on it. What about you?
Yeah, I don't think I can say much more than what I've already said about moving through the tracks and what I said at the start as well, and agree with the points you make there. And as I said from the start, I said it was I'm really glad I listened to this album because it was great to see this side. Because I said I didn't know any of these tracks. I didn't know what they were like when they first sort of came out. It was, yeah, you're right. Sort of, to me, it did feel surprising in some regards, not overly surprising because I knew exactly what Pink Floyd are kind of about, but surprising sort of, how varied it was going to be and what elements of Pink Floyd you'd hear from this that we hear later on in life there. But yeah, again, it seems, songs appreciate back in the time. And I said it was really hard. I can't think of, because you're right, I think there are people from our generation and now who would, I'd probably really enjoy it in some regards. I said it's just hard trying to think of the equivalent of people from our artists from our periods where people would come pick up and go, this is such a unique, different, unusual thing to come across. And I don't think we've really got anything like that. And I think that's a unique time, this sort of period where things can be like a little bit new and just trained out there. But anyway, back to the album. Yeah, I said didn't hate it. Looked at more sort of as an eye opener and good sort of history lesson.
Okay, so that concludes our album review of The Piper at the Gates of Dawn. So just before we finish, just to let you know, if you don't know already, we are accepting album requests. If you want us to review an album of your choice, please let us know in the comments section. And we'll also give you the opportunity to feature and appear on our channel to introduce the album and kind of talk about it if you so wish. So we look forward to receiving your requests. We'll choose one lucky person at random if we get any requests, that is. So thank you for watching. We'll see you for the next one. Goodbye.